He handed me a warm gin martini and said, "You kept the wheels from flying off, Carl." That was it. No plaque, no bonus check, not even a group photo. Just that one-line thank you from Carson, the founder of Axis Thera, at his retirement lunch in a half-empty hotel conference room near the St. Louis airport. "My name's Carl Matthews. I'm 43. I live in Baldwin, Missouri. I was the compliance lead for Axis Thera for 7 years. FDA submissions, license custody, trial paperwork, all the boring back-end stuff that makes or breaks a biotech firm when regulators come knocking. I built the whole regulatory structure from the ground up. Nobody cared. But if I ever slipped up, they'd have my head on a spike by Monday morning. That job was like wearing an invisibility cloak made of liability. You don't schmooze, you don't give flashy presentations, you just make sure the government doesn't torch the place down. I wasn't flashy, I wasn't liked, but I knew where every skeleton was buried. And more importantly, I had the keys. Literally. The company's federal license credentials came on a black USB-style dongle. Looked like when Carson walked out the door, drink in hand, half drunk and finally free, I looked around the room and realized I was screwed. I wasn't flashy. I wasn't family. I was just the guy who kept the wheels from flying off. Quick note, before we go any further, share which city or country you're watching from. 3 weeks later, she showed up. Karen, Carson's niece, fresh from some marketing gig in Scottsdale. Blonde, loud, overdressed, no science background, no regulatory experience. Her new title? Director of Innovation and Strategy. I watched her power walk through the office in heels that clacked like gunfire. First meeting she ran, she called the regulatory group. My group. Legacy clutter. Right to my face. That's when I knew we weren't going to get along. The last thing Carson ever said to me was that I'd kept the wheels from flying off. What he didn't say, and maybe didn't realize, was that he'd just handed the whole car over to someone who didn't even know where the brake pedal was. And me, I still had the keys. She came in like she owned the place. And on paper, I guess she kinda did. Day 1, Karen held an all hands in the break room. Called it a culture reset. Her words, not mine. Told us we needed to start thinking like a nimble startup, whatever the hell that meant, while sipping her stupid green smoothie through a metal straw like she was solving climate change. By the end of that week, she had hired some boutique consulting firm from Austin to digitally transform our compliance infrastructure. Translation? They deleted our document archive. All of it. Gone. FDA submission logs, validation protocols, license audits, chain of custody history, shredded for efficiency at $425 an hour. And the cherry on top? They rolled out a shiny new file sharing platform called Vision Drive. Collaborative, cloud-based, AI optimized. The interns loved it. I asked where the encrypted backups were. Some 26-year-old in a hoodie told me to trust the blockchain. I stood in the server room watching 6 years of controlled data just vanish. One guy unplugged our license registry box and said, "Don't worry, this will auto-sync to the new environment." I said, "The FDA doesn't recognize Vision Drive." He blinked. "Wait, you can't DM them directly?" That was the moment I realized we were screwed. Not maybe, not eventually, already screwed. Karen had no idea what she'd done. Neither did her consultants. But they smiled while billing us by the hour. The HR memo hit 2 days later. Subject line, role optimization update. I wasn't even copied directly, just looped in by accident. My role was evolving. I was no longer the compliance director. I was now an external compliance advisor. Translation, fire you slow, avoid a lawsuit. They didn't even ask me to train my replacement. They didn't assign one. I grabbed a binder, thick one, and built a full transition packet myself. Custody logs, license history, credential access guides, even a step-by-step on how to do the legal handoff of the dongle. I printed it. I hole-punched it. I made 3 copies. Walked straight into her office. No appointment. She was sitting cross-legged in a stupid beanbag chair under a neon sign that said, "Disrupt everything," staring at her phone, swiping like a teenager. I dropped the packet on her desk and said, "You're gonna need this. It's the full system handoff. Legal compliance, license protocols, chain of..." She didn't even look up. Just waved a hand and said, "That's not your concern anymore. Not my concern. That dongle was still sitting in my bottom drawer, still registered to me, still binding in the eyes of the federal government. If they tried to use it without proper transfer, it wouldn't just be a mistake, it'd be a felony. Karen didn't know that. Worse, she didn't care. No one had asked about it. No one mentioned custody transfer, no audit trail, nothing. Just dumped the past 7 years into the trash and called it disruption. I sat in my car for a long time that night, just staring at the dashboard. I thought about dropping the pouch in a manila envelope and mailing it to legal, certified mail. I even printed the label, but I didn't send it. Because I knew exactly what would happen next, and I knew they wouldn't see it coming. They'd try to keep going, pretend compliance just managed itself, use the dongle without authorization, submit filings with invalid credentials, screw up the signatures, burn the audit trail, all of it. And then someone, FDA, DOJ, take your pick, would ask to see the license custody logs. And they'd realize no one ever took possession, that the entire company was filing under my name after pushing me out. That's the moment I should have walked. Just unplugged, deleted my credentials, and ghosted. But I didn't. Because even then, even after they gutted the system I built, a part of me still thought maybe I could keep them from screwing it up too bad. Spoiler, I couldn't. Monday morning, I brought in a cardboard box. Nothing fancy, just the one from the copier room with the busted corner. I started packing. Desk calendar, stapler, mug with the peeling Axis Thera logo. Same spot I'd sat for 7 years. Same chair through 3 rounds of layoffs, 2 floods, and that one damn bat that got into the ductwork and triggered a building-wide evacuation. No one even looked over. HR slid a generic PDF into my inbox around 11. No subject line, just exit materials. It was the standard severance boilerplate. Confidentiality, non-disparagement, best wishes. No mention of the license, no mention of the dongle, no final checklist. Just a link to schedule my exit interview with a chatbot. I replied, offering a walkthrough on the credentials. Again, one last chance. I even attached a diagram. Got the same line back from HR. Not your concern. 3 words, 0 thinking. I emailed legal, twice. First one was polite, second one wasn't. Finally, some paralegal named Jessica wrote back, "Thanks, we'll take it from here." That's all I needed to hear. I left my badge on the keyboard, locked the bottom drawer, and walked out for lunch. Didn't come back that day. Didn't have to. Next morning, my second to last day, Karen pinged me on Slack. "Karen, need my latte. You're technically on payroll until 5s. That damn smiley face. Like I was still her errand boy. Like I wasn't holding the one thing that actually mattered. I didn't even blink. Walked back to my desk, pulled open the drawer, and looked at the pouch. Gray foam, black plastic. Still warm from the last time I used it. Still registered to me. Still the only thing linking Axis Thera to the federal licensing database. I typed back one word, me, sure, and that was it. No more warnings, no more advice. I'd offered the handoff, twice. Hell, I'd built them a goddamn roadmap. They didn't want it, so I stopped giving it. I carried the dongle in my jacket pocket the rest of the day. Not out of pettiness, out of insurance. If someone finally came to their senses, I was still reachable. But no one did. The office felt quieter than usual. Not silent, just dull. Like the buzz had been turned down. No one asked what I was doing. No one said goodbye. Karen strutted past my cubicle around 3 p.m. in a blazer with the tag still on. She didn't even glance at the half-packed box by my chair. Malik from IT paused by the snack wall, caught my eye, and gave a slow head shake. Nothing else, just that. He knew. 5 o'clock hit, and I walked out with my box under one arm and the pouch zipped in my inside pocket. The glass door clicked behind me like a coffin lid. I didn't slam it, didn't yank cables or send any grand farewell message. I just left. They thought they were showing me the door. Truth is, I let myself out. I woke up before my alarm. Final morning, no coffee, no radio, just quiet. I shaved close, ironed a navy shirt, and put on clean slacks. Nothing flashy, just sharp. Like I was headed to court, because in a way, I was. The building smelled like burnt toast and cheap toner. I nodded at the janitor, skipped the break room, and walked straight to my desk. The dongle pouch was waiting in my drawer like a loaded gun. I slipped it into my jacket pocket and zipped it shut. Karen was already in, leaning on some intern's desk by the window, fake laughing and waving her water bottle like she was on a podcast. I caught one sentence as I passed. "We're streamlining compliance with AI, no more paper dinosaurs." I stepped up behind her and waited. She turned around with that same teeth-baring smile she used on LinkedIn headshots. I held the pouch out. She raised an eyebrow. "What's this?" "The key." She blinked like she didn't hear me, then grabbed it like it was gum someone handed her in a checkout line. No follow-up, no clipboard, no witness. She didn't even unzip the pouch. She just turned and dropped it on her desk next to a half-eaten protein bar and her phone, which lit up with a Slack message as soon as it landed. She glanced at it and started typing. Didn't look at me again. In that moment, legally, she'd accepted the license key. Illegally, no protocol, no transfer letter, no signed chain of custody. Just a casual reach and drop, like I'd handed her a pack of breath mints. That was the trap. I'd given them 3 chances to do it the right way, all ignored. Now the transfer happened on her terms. Sloppy, undocumented, and binding. I stood there for 2 seconds longer than I needed to, just to let the silence breathe. Then I turned and walked away. No threat, no tantrum, no long speech about liability or ethics. Let her keep talking about AI and synergy and whatever else she picked up from a YouTube seminar. She'd find out soon enough. I passed Malik by the copier. He raised his eyebrows like, "It's done?" I gave a small nod and kept walking. Elevator came fast. That never happened before. I took it all the way down, slow and quiet, with just the building's elevator music whispering in the background. In the lobby, I walked past reception. Nobody stopped me, nobody noticed, just like always. But something had changed. This wasn't just me leaving a job. This was a transfer of weight. And whether she realized it or not, Karen had just picked up the heaviest object in the company and held it with one hand like it was nothing. That's what made it so perfect. Because when it went bad, and it would, no one could claim they weren't told. I gave them the map, the tools, the warnings. They ignored all of it. So I gave them what they wanted. I stepped out into the parking lot, buttoned my jacket, and let the wind hit me. It wasn't cold, just honest. Like the weather knew what was coming. Behind me, somewhere in that building, the dongle sat on Karen's desk under a stack of scented notepads and budget spreadsheets. Still warm, still active. Still bound to every federal system that kept that company alive. 3 weeks later, my phone buzzed while I was in line at the DNSV. Malik from IT. He sent one screenshot. No message, no context. Just a PDF. The header said, Federal Submission Portal, and there it was. Karen's digital signature. Title, Acting License Custodian. I laughed out loud right there between a crying toddler and a guy renewing his plates. Not bitter, not smug, just plain amused. Because she wasn't, and never had been. That license was never transferred, not once. The chain of custody still listed Carl Matthews, primary custodian, meaning every document she'd signed under that title, every trial submission, every regulatory filing, all of it was illegal, and she'd used my key to do it. Malik followed up a few minutes later. "You sitting down for this?" Then a flood of messages, screenshots, Slack threads, internal memos, all hell breaking loose at Axis Thera. Apparently the FDA caught it first. He snorted. "Nah, I'm not stupid, but everyone's losing it. Legal's calling emergency meetings. HR's red as tomatoes. Karen's in the bullpen holding that dongle like it bit her. I could picture it. Her manicured nails gripping the black plastic, eyes darting, voice going high-pitched. "What did she say?" I asked. She tried to blame Emily from accounting. "Emily?" "Yeah," said. "Emily gave it to me." I laughed again. Malik chuckled too, low and nervous. Then legal asked if she'd signed anything with it. I could already guess. She said, "A couple filings." The silence after that, Malik said, was nuclear. Conference room door slammed. CFO walked out looking like he'd been punched in the chest. Karen went pale, started whispering into her phone. Then the legal counsel came down from the 12th floor, that gray-haired guy who smells like peppermints, and dragged her into a private call. Malik said the floor went dead quiet. Even the intern stopped typing. He screenshotted her Slack status. "Do not disturb." I asked him how bad it looked. "Bad," he said. "Like, We're talking criminal negligence bad. You didn't see anything. I mean, technically I didn't, he said. You just stopped showing up. Exactly. He exhaled through the phone. They're in deep, man. Real deep. The submission deadlines are all backing up. Partners are calling. Somebody said the Germans pulled their milestone payment because the license status is under review. I could hear his fingers tapping nervously on his keyboard. You okay with me keeping your name off this? Malik, I said. You don't owe me anything. But if anyone asks, just tell the truth. I offered the transition. They said no. He didn't respond right away, then, yeah, I remember. That's all that mattered. By the time I hung up, I could almost see it. The office in chaos. Karen's desk covered in legal pads and empty cups. The dongle lying there like a live grenade she couldn't disarm. She'd turned a compliance backbone into a bomb. And now it was going off. Inside, the walls I'd built to keep the company stable were cracking from the top down. Filings frozen. Payments withheld. Board in panic mode. All because a self-proclaimed innovator didn't read a 4-line custody clause. I started the car, set my phone face down, and let myself smile, just once. Not from revenge, not even satisfaction, just relief. The wheel was finally off, and this time, I wasn't the one keeping it on. By the next morning, Axis Thera was under full compliance suspension. Malik texted me at 7:05. Everything's frozen. FDA blacklisted the portal. All trials halted. By 9, every partner we had was on hold. The Germans didn't even wait for a phone call. They pulled their investment, canceled the joint venture, and scrubbed the company logo off their site. Series C, gone, vapor. Karen tried to call it a temporary licensing hiccup. In a Slack message someone screenshotted and forwarded to me. She used a damn shrug emoji. Then she locked herself in the big glass conference room with 3 legal pads, 2 Red Bulls, and no plan. I got the play-by-play from Malik. The board dialed in emergency outside counsel. They patched in Carson from whatever overpriced island he'd been hiding on. Malik said you could hear his voice through the speaker before they even unmuted him. You let her take the license key like a party favor? That wasn't a question. That was a verdict. Karen didn't answer. She couldn't. She was done. By 3 p.m., her accounts were locked. Slack, email, badge access. I'd shut it all off while she was still inside the building. They called it a voluntary leave of absence. Yeah, sure. The hallway outside legal looked like a crime scene. Boxes stacked, blinds drawn, security posted at the door. Real quiet, real tense. People were whispering like the feds were already in the lobby. Malik said the new CFO tried to calm the floor down with some nonsense about moving forward stronger. No one bought it. One of the lab guys threw his ID badge into a trash can and walked out mid-shift. At no point, not once, did anyone blame me. Couldn't. I didn't sabotage a thing. I didn't move a decimal, delete a file, or hide a document. I followed the rulebook to the letter and gave them every chance to do the same. They broke it. I just stopped fixing it. Karen called compliance legacy clutter, said it out loud, in a meeting like it was funny. Turns out the clutter was the only thing holding the tower upright. By the time the board realized that, it was already rubble. No one reached out to me. No apology, no offer. Not even a headhunter trying to poach my expertise. And that was fine. I'd already walked away. The day after it all blew up, I walked back in. Just once. No drama, just had to drop off some final paperwork. My license deactivation form, signed and sealed. The front doors were still unlocked, but security looked jumpy. The younger guard recognized me and stiffened like he wasn't sure whether to salute or escort me out. I nodded. He didn't move. The HR suite was dark. Empty chairs, unplugged monitors, someone's coffee still steaming like they left in a hurry. I passed the glass fishbowl where Karen used to hold her vision sinks. Empty too. Not even a chair left. Malik caught me in the hallway by the IT bullpen. He smirked, gave a slow nod, didn't say a word. He didn't have to. The place was silent. Not peaceful, just wrong. Like the oxygen got sucked out. Phones weren't ringing. Printers weren't humming. Nobody tapping keyboards. Just this heavy dread hanging over everything. I walked up to the front desk. Receptionist was new. She didn't even look 22. She took the envelope with 2 hands like she wasn't sure what it was. "They've been trying to reach you," she said, almost a whisper. Yeah, I said. I figured. That was all. I turned and headed for the exit. No second look, no victory lap, just out. When I hit the parking lot, I pulled out my phone and opened one last draft email. No hesitation, no second guessing. 2, its support, all subject. Access, body. You'll want to change my permissions, or not. Up to you, no sign off, no smiley face. Just hit send. The air outside was cooler than I remembered. Crisp, clean, honest. Like it didn't care who just got fired, who screwed up, or who warned them before it happened. For the first time in years, I didn't feel responsible, didn't feel angry. I didn't feel much of anything. They treated compliance like a formality, a checkbox, a blocker, something to tolerate while pretending it didn't matter. But that box, it was the only thing holding the whole tower up. And now, not my concern anymore.